All right, welcome back, everyone. This is episode number 3 of Travel Talk.
With Grant and Marissa.
Yeah.
The podcast where we talk about travel things.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this one today.
This is really fun.
A fun one. This week we're going to mix it up a little bit with a bit of a game between Marissa and I, where we're going to play a little travel version of Would You Rather.
Right. And the thing that's nice about this game is there's no points and no winning or losing because if you know me, I'm not allowed to do anything competitive.
Yeah, Marissa can't do anything. She gets a little cranky.
I do. I'm not a very good loser.
But yeah, so we thought that we'd have this little laid-back, friendly game of Would You Rather, where we're kind of, how it's going to work is we both have selected 5 questions for one another, and I think they probably reveal a little bit about some of our travel preferences and travel personalities a little bit. I think. So we'll probably go one for one and do it one at a time, and we'll probably have our own opinions on the question too. But
that's true.
But
that's true.
Yeah, just having a little fun, and also while you're listening or watching this, if you have any your opinion on or your answer to these Would You Rathers, put them in the comments below because I'm sure some of our opinions might be controversial or they might be common. I don't know, but we want to hear what you all think about these because some of them would be kind of tricky to decide between, I think.
Yeah. And so as always, I say always, like we've done 50 of these. It's our 3rd episode, but today's beverage is I'm continuing my Highland Brewing, just working my way through a variety pack, and it's the Trailbound Hazy IPA.
Yeah. And once again, we're doing this once a week, and we still have the same pack in our fridge. So I'm still working my way through my Kirkland, my Costco seltzers.
All right, let's get to Would You Rather.
Yeah. Do you want to go? Do you want me to ask you first?
I want to ask you first.
Okay.
I'm just gonna work down the list. All right.
Let's do it.
Would you rather be in charge of planning a last-minute surprise trip for tomorrow?
Oh.
Or hand over all planning power to me for a month-long trip?
All planning.
All planning. You get no say.
Wow.
Baby.
Oof. Yeah, that's a...
You're like, this is my nightmare.
Or for tomorrow. These are my 2 worst nightmares because, I love planning...
I know.
...in advance.
I know.
And spending the whole time, planning and going over things and researching. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand...
You also don't like surprising me.
No. So, because if I did a last minute,
It says a last minute surprise trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like even though I'm not, super confident in you able to plan all of that.
Gee, thanks,
no
sweetie.
No offense. You have admitted this yourself.
No, that's true. Hey, I got myself to Germany to meet you.
That's true. But I guess you're not under a time constraint.
Yeah.
So you would have as long as you want to plan this scenario, right?
Yeah, but a month is a lot.
An entire month, yeah. Yeah, I guess I would probably give you the reins for the travel.
Wow.
Because I think planning a last minute trip, your question doesn't specify, does it? How long?
Doesn't specify.
If it was just for a weekend or something, but if it wasn't at least a week, one of our normal trips for a week or something.
Yeah, and it says we would have to go tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, that would be extremely expensive.
It says cost is not a factor in this question.
It's not a factor. Okay, so yeah, it might also depend on where the trip was.
You have to stick to the parameters of the question. You can't ask for clarifiers. The game is your gut instinct.
All right, I would let you plan the trip.
I did not anticipate that.
Yeah, okay. I think
that terrifies me to the core of my being.
I don't like doing things last minute. That would make me too stressed.
The most last minute is we went to Scotland on 2 weeks' notice, and I think that was very stressful for you.
Yeah. So I think I would be very stressed if I planned something with 1 day's notice. Yeah. So a surprise one for the
first, I'm actually really surprised. Okay.
All right, let's go. Marissa's first question. All right. Would you rather be in charge, so same theme as the planning theme. Would you rather be in charge of planning our next trip all by yourself? So this is the other side, this is exact scenario. Or have me plan it all, but you can't change a single thing.
Oh my God, you plan it all. It's not even, It's not even a question.
So you can't change anything.
No, but like, I don't think the chances are extremely low that you would plan something that I would be that upset about. Like, I can't think of something you would plan.
Knowing that you wouldn't like to do it.
Yeah.
We have pretty similar tastes in a lot of things. And,
Yeah.
And like, spoiler alert, I probably do plan like 90% of the things anyway.
Yeah, that's true. No, I don't want to be in charge, which is really funny because in my real-time life, I manage a whole team of people.
Yeah, when it comes to travel, you're just a bit of a passenger princess, right?
Well, I think that's part of how I relax is
Right.
like in my real job, I have a lot of responsibility. And so getting to like turn off the logistics part of my brain is really nice.
And that's partially why we do travel a lot too, is to remove you from your stressful day job, right?
Give my brain a break.
So.
My job is not that stressful. I'm not like an air traffic controller.
No.
But
still, and I enjoy planning.
You thrive on it.
And I almost enjoy planning more than actually going on trips.
You're so Number 2. All right. Would you rather have no access to maps or GPS for a week, or no access to your travel spreadsheets or notes?
Ooh, okay.
Grant is
I think I would go for no access to my like spreadsheet or notes.
Interesting.
Because I think I would at least like that. This doesn't mean I can't have spreadsheets and notes before I go on the trip. It's like while I'm on the trip. So I think like I could probably remember enough of like places or things we were gonna do.
That's fair. Yeah.
And then I can use the maps to remind myself of things that maybe I had found or whatever beforehand in planning.
Yeah.
So I think living without it would be okay. It wouldn't be perfect, but I think being without the maps would be.
I thought I was going to have to pry your notes from your cold dead hands and your spreadsheets.
No, I think having like Google Maps and stuff, especially if we're in like a new city or something for the first time, is kind of necessary nowadays.
It's wild to think about, like, when I first started traveling, that wasn't an option.
Right. You have to get like your little like tourist map or whatever.
Or just wander around and hope you figured it out. I remember I want to say I was in Prague, which is like all those old cities. Like the streets are just like a rat king of like messiness. And we stopped a guy to ask for directions, and he wound up being from Idaho, which wasn't very helpful. He was as lost as we were. Anyways.
Yeah. But no, I think I would opt for keeping the maps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we dive into the next question, I just want to say we are 3 for 3, or almost 3 for 3, on a few things have happened every time we have sat down to record one of these. Mm-hmm. The first is, so our cat's room with his litter box is right across the hall. And he goes in there and does like the most, like he tries to reenact Mad Max in his litter box as soon as we start recording.
Yeah.
Just scratching more than I have ever heard him play in the litter before. Every single time he's done that. The second thing is we put our dog Ellie outside because she's a hot mess express, and she immediately starts barking at the neighbor. The third thing, which hasn't happened yet because he's the goodest good boy, is Flynn will start chewing a bone. So that happened, all 3 happened the first 2 times we did it, and we are already...
We're 2 out of 3.
We're at 2 out of 3, so...
That is the other instance. There is 4th. Ellie, the problem child, will then come to the door and scratch to come in.
She's a massive problem.
So be right back. All right, we're back. The problem child is inside.
Every time.
All right. So question number 2 for Marissa.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Would you rather be randomly selected for extra security at every airport, or have our bags always be the last ones on the carousel?
Is this for the rest of my life?
Let's just say for the next year of travel.
Oh, bags last, bags last.
Bags last?
Yes, because we put air tags in them, so at least we know they've arrived to the airport. Mm-hmm. And few things crank up my anxiety like being in airport security.
Yeah.
And the few time, like there was one time last year where I got the quadruple S's, or is it triple S's or quadruple? Whatever. I got the S's on my boarding pass, and it was so incredibly stressful. So yeah, I'll take bags being last.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I think it's funny because like I don't get like the full on extra security. Like I had that actually at Iceland Airport on the way home.
Yeah, you did.
I had to go like through an extra thing, and they had to take everything out of my bag, and that's the worst. Like, cause that was like my carry-on like backpack is meticulously packed with all the camera gear and like everything. Yeah. So taking all that stuff out is quite a big pain, but it's normally okay if I often get the extra security, like just like when you're going through the detectors again, or we need to open it up real quick because I do have camera gear that often flags like the machines and stuff, so I don't really care about that level. Yeah. But no, the dreaded like we're gonna like take everything out and like swab them and like all that kind of stuff is a pain.
Yeah.
But we don't lose time when we get to the place, like your bag being last on the carousel though.
It's just the
stress. Yeah.
It's stressful, and my body interprets it as I am being hunted by a saber-toothed tiger, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's fair because you're more stressed with the security one.
I get so much more stressed.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do but get through it, whereas with the bags, as long as I know that like the...
What if we didn't have air tags?
I don't think my answer would change.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
Would you rather have every flight for a year be delayed by 3 hours, or no lounge access for a year?
I think this is easy. I would say I would prefer to have no lounge access. Like a 3 hour, like if I knew that, I guess you could say if you knew every flight was going to be 3 hours delayed, you would just plan for that.
You could plan for that and then spend a lot of time in lounges.
Or you'd be like, that's not the real time. But I'm guessing in this make-believe scenario, we don't know it's going to be delayed.
Yeah.
It's not like a planned 3 hour delay, because that you would just factor it in.
Yeah, no, you don't know.
No, 100% no lounge access. That's fine. Like, I think I could deal with that.
Okay.
I think added stress of every flight. Oh, just imagine that, like, that would be even connections and stuff. Mm-hmm. Every connection would be 3 hours. Like, yeah, no. That would be
Grant's working himself up into a respectable panic attack just thinking about it. He's like, oh, and carry the one. And
yeah, no, I would never choose that. Yeah. Yeah, I can give up. I can give up the lounges for that. Yeah, that's fine. All right. So we're up to question 3 for Marissa. Okay. So would you rather travel during the busiest tourist season everywhere we go?
Okay.
Or during the off season when there's limited services and attractions, or maybe the weather isn't ideal?
Off season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This doesn't surprise me actually, but I wanted to hear your like thoughts and stuff on this.
Because for a few reasons. One, we have often traveled places on the off season and have had a fabulous time.
Yeah. Sometimes not as fabulous. Sometimes really good. And
like we loved Dubrovnik, Croatia in the winter.
Oh,
it was like we had it to ourselves and it was wonderful.
Yeah. And it would have been pandemonium if we were there in summertime.
And it's hot and it's miserable.
It's
more expensive. And just in the winter, it was like, it was just lovely.
Because it wasn't even that cold either.
It wasn't that cold. Like, I'm trying to say like less. I notice how much I'm doing it when we record this. And you don't have to edit that out. Thinking about how we were like sitting in that bar on the outer wall and it was like empty. Mm-hmm. That was such a, like watching the sunset was so amazing.
Yeah.
And imagine how hard it would be to get in there in the summer.
Yeah. And like the walls themselves, you can walk like the whole perimeter of the walls around the old town Dubrovnik, and there's like no one on
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And even in times where like we traveled to the Maldives in the off season, and that was not ideal. But
yeah.
it was still a lovely time. We still loved the resort.
It was way quieter.
It was way quieter. We
And-
still had a lovely experience.
And we probably would not have been able to go there in peak season with how expensive it was. So that made it accessible for us, which
South
is
Africa
great.
too.
South Africa, yeah.
We were there in the off season.
We had lovely weather though.
We had lovely weather.
Yeah.
We saw everything we wanted to see and more. We
Yeah.
couldn't have asked for a better
No,
experience.
I think and this might be its own podcast in the future.
Oh,
But
why we really
off season like travel
Yeah.
and how like underrated it is.
Even just when we were in Flom, that was kind of the shoulder season.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still fairly crowded from cruise ships, but
Yeah.
imagine how much worse it is at
Like
the
I'll
peak of
always
summer.
choose having a place less crowded.
That's for me too. And thinking about places where we were there and it was super crowded.
Japan.
Japan, particularly, I was very worried when we went to Japan that I was going to get overstimulated. You think about large crowds and people crushing onto subways.
Mm-hmm.
And Tokyo was fine. I was completely fine in Tokyo. The day I struggled was when we did like a not a hop on hop off, but a bus tour of all the different temples and shrines in Kyoto, and the bamboo forest is what got me because it was very, very hot that day. It was super crowded.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even look it in the video because Grant is very good at creative camera work to make it not look like that. But I wound up having a panic attack. And that's happened to me in other places where it's super crowded. I just get overwhelmed very quickly.
Yeah.
And so, no busy places for me. I would like to avoid it. Number 4. We're blasting through these. Would you rather have perfect travel luck forever, no delays, you get upgrades, fabulous weather, but never plan another trip yourself, or always plan every detail, but you will have constant travel hiccups?
Plan, but have hiccups.
Okay.
I think we've talked about this before. Like, well, we talked
already
about it
said it.
earlier. I love planning, so taking that away would take away like half of my enjoyment of travel.
I think it would take away like 75% of your joy.
But then on the other hand, yes, it's not great at the time when problems happen, but we've sort of said that as one of our sort of like almost like mantras while traveling is that like travel's not perfect, and that's some of the that's like why it is what it is because things go wrong, unexpected things happen. You go like you might have to go to a place you didn't think you would go, or you're
The ER, for example.
maybe not that, yeah, but like sometimes you can't do the thing you plan to do that day because of the weather or
just have to
something,
adapt,
and you go and
yeah.
do something else instead, and it ends up being the best thing you did on the whole trip.
That's very true.
Or like something happens and you have to cancel a trip, and you end up doing it 6 months later or something, and you find out that trip was like the best ever, and maybe you did something you could never do again. So I think it's like I think doing that would
Interesting.
I think having it be perfect, especially without planning it. Like who the hell's planning it if we weren't planning it? That would just be
One time,
chaos.
Actually, really, the first time we traveled together barely counts. It was like a weekend cruise, and we used a classmate of mine from high school as a travel agent, and it stressed Grant out so hard, and you've refused to let.
I didn't use travel agents ever anymore because it's like when things do go wrong,
You want that control.
barely anything can be done about it unless you can like get that like the travel agent has to do most of the things depending what it is, especially flights and hotels and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and also I love doing it. So why would I
doing
like pay someone to do it for me?
I think you missed your calling. Anyways.
Number 4 for Marissa now. Okay. So, would you rather arrive to our destination, but you realize you've forgotten to pack like half of your things? So, like, I don't know, like, maybe you don't have the right clothes, or like not enough. Maybe you forgot like half of your toiletries, or like let's just say half of everything. It wouldn't be enough to like make it through the trip.
Okay.
Or your luggage is delayed by 3 days, but it eventually shows up.
The first one.
The first one, like half of the things.
Half of the things, toiletries I can replace.
Yep.
Clothes I can either replace or just like wash and dry in the hotel room. There's a lot easier ways I can get around that.
Yep.
Versus if you don't have your stuff for 3 days, you're screwed.
Yeah, you would have to go out right away and buy stuff. Like you'd have to buy like all of the things, like shirts, pants.
And at the time,
underwear.
you don't know it's 3 days.
Right. Well, this condition is you will know it will.
It's no 3 days? Okay, no, my answer doesn't change though.
Okay.
You can live around having half the stuff.
Okay.
Because I've forgotten stuff before because it's me.
Yeah.
And you just make it work. But not having your stuff for 3 days.
And I think this is like also indicative of the things we bring with, like, aside from like our technology, like camera gear, iPads or whatever, none of the like clothing we have, I would say, is like particularly like expensive or irreplaceable and stuff, right? So it's kind of like whatever. Like I just wear the like t-shirts and stuff that's not super expensive. So if you have to have extra stuff or buy some stuff like to survive a few extra days, right?
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've done that before. Like we've had to buy toiletries abroad, or like I've forgotten my hairbrush. It happens.
Yeah.
If you have half the amount of underwear, you can just wash it. Oh, I'd survive.
Sure. Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That wasn't a very dramatic one.
Yeah, that was it. That was an easy one.
Right. Is this number 5?
Yeah, 5 for me, and then you go one more too.
Oh no. Okay. This is gonna stress you out. Would you rather be stuck behind a huge tour group all day or spend the day trying to find parking in a busy city?
No, that's easy. I would rather be behind a tour group all day.
Okay.
Parking
Stresses you
in
out.
a city, like say, like I assume you're by this question because you're trying to get the most aggravating thing. It has to be like street parking, right? Probably doesn't say, but let's just say that's the scenario, right?
If you want to make it really hard for yourself.
Yeah, like, because otherwise it's like, oh, you just drive to find a deck, like.
Yeah, but if you're, depending on the city, if you're in Europe, there's probably not a lot of parking decks.
Yeah.
And 2, it's going to be insanely expensive.
Right. But let's just say for the sake of the argument, to make it the worst possible, it's like you have to like find street parking that's like you have to parallel park or whatever. Like all my worst case scenarios when driving, that would be the worst. And I think like being stuck by a giant tour group would be also equally horrible, and I would not wish that on myself either. But I think that you could make it work, or like I could like find creative ways to get around the annoying tour group.
You can't though. No, you're behind them all day.
You have to be behind them.
Yeah. Based on the syntax of the sentence or the question, yes.
Well, by going by the syntax of the question too, I would never find a parking spot either, right? Because it says I'm searching for parking.
You're
all day.
spending the day trying to find parking.
So at least the first scenario, I'm like actually doing like I'm at tourist attractions or whatever, and it's like cool places. The other scenario, I'm just driving.
We've done the second scenario.
In which place?
So we live about 3 hours from the beach. And one time we tried to, you forgot about this.
Yeah.
We tried to drive to the beach and they have like street parking and like one tiny little lot, the beach we often go to if we're going to do a day trip. We drove like 3 hours there, drove around the entire town, could not find a single parking spot, got frustrated and drove home.
And we drove home.
We literally drove 6 hours round trip for no reason.
We made the mistake of going too late.
Yeah, we were too late in the day.
And that was horrendous. Yeah, I don't.
So we've literally done that.
I don't want that. Yeah.
Okay.
At least the other one, it's going to be annoying around like a giant tour group that's being like annoying or whatever. But it's like at least I'm doing cool things while traveling and not just stuck in a car.
Even if it's like all tourists like holding up like their iPads to like take photos and you can't get good photos of things.
No, still better.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, final question. Let's do it. Okay. Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Okay. This is the airplane one. Okay. So
Oh, no.
Would you rather be stuck on a long-haul flight? So let's say for the sake of the argument, 12 hours.
Okay, 12 hours.
Long
Long flight. Okay, got it.
next to someone who won't stop talking the
no.
entire flight, or there's a crying baby next to you for the entire
Won't
flight?
stop talking.
You would rather that than the baby? Okay. But they're literally talking to you, though.
Yep. No, that's fine.
Really?
Yes.
What is your reasoning for this? Do you have a way to explain this?
Yes.
Because I find this actually very interesting, because I don't think I would have the same thing.
So for me, this goes back to my sensory issues. Depending on the age, lung capacity, and pitch of the baby cry,
Yeah.
it's physically painful for me.
Yeah, true.
And I can have earplugs in and
it would still...
noise canceling headphones on, and it doesn't cancel. My brain just like zeroes in on that sound, and it causes physical pain.
Yeah.
If it's a person just talking, hopefully they're not super annoying.
Let's say for the sake of the argument, they are annoying.
I would
for
still rather that. Yeah. I'd rather be annoyed than literal physical pain.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me personally, I would take the baby.
Yeah.
Because I would find that like having to constantly be like acting like I'm talking, like interested or whatever in what this person is saying for that whole time. Like, and this is a stranger, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not someone you know. This would be a stranger, this scenario. Right. I would be like, nope, I could put my headphones on, maybe put some earplugs in and headphones on and try and ignore the baby, or at least
No, my brain zeroes
I feel like that
on
long a flight, it would just be even more exhausting having to be like conversing with someone for 12 hours.
Yeah, no.
Also, I apologize if you hear Ellie barking in the background.
She's such a massive problem.
But that's it. We finished our lists. That was 5 questions for each of us.
That was fun.
Yeah, no, that was good. I think like we could probably do tons of these.
Yeah.
But I think like, yeah, let us know, like definitely let us know in the comments what your answers are to some of these. Or if you have like an even more like stressful or like annoying one of these that you think would be funny, like put it in the comments and we'll try our best to answer them. Like I think.
What I think is really funny, I noticed this as we were answering them, is you always wanted to ask clarifying questions about the scenario. And I just would go with my gut almost before you were done reading off the question.
Yeah.
Which I think is very much our personalities.
That shows, I think the differences between us.
100%.
But yeah, that does it for today's episode, I think. This was really fun. I enjoyed this kind of more just like laid back, casual.
Light and breezy.
Yeah, fun podcast episode. But hope you all enjoyed it as well. Make sure you're subscribed. We've got a new episode of the podcast every Tuesday. We're releasing these episodes.
Yeah.
And then also we have our weekly vlog on Fridays.
Our weekly travel vlogs that show us actually traveling.
Yeah, we're currently still in our Norway series. So if you haven't watched those videos, make sure you head back and check them out. But until next time, we'll see you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
You sounded very Australian.
See you later.
Later.
Later.